Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur and an author from Israel, Mr. Ziv Raviv. Ziv, welcome to
Hel-
the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for everyone listening to the brand called You. It's such an awesome honor to be here.
Thank you. Ziv is a super coach, and he's the owner and CEO at Kivi Media Company. He's also the author of a book titled The Fully Booked Coach, and he's the host of Beyond Six Figures podcast. So, Ziv, before we come to coaching and other questions, a few questions for you personally. You began as a software engineer and ended up as a balloon artist. How did that transition change your understanding of entrepreneurship?
Well, as a software engineer and a project manager in a software company, I actually had to deal with very smart people,
Mm-hmm.
engineers, software developers, and understand clients' needs. And I was working with big clients like car manufacturers, phone manufacturers, like mobile phones. And I thought that gave me an edge in business. But when I became a full-time small business owner, I found out that marketing is completely different when you're working with people in comparison to like business, big corporates and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And it forced me to shift my entire approach to business because I just had to learn marketing. I had to figure out lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of doing so, I've learned so much, and I decided to share my ideas through a podcast. That was like my first podcast was born as a result of just trying to be generous, trying to share back what I've learned. And soon, soon enough after that, people started to ask me to coach them and to help them. I kind of became a coach accidentally
Okay.
because my listeners were interested into that.
Very interesting. What were the biggest mindset shifts you had to make when moving from technical work to creative entrepreneurship?
I think the biggest mindset shift is from moving from creating things that are logically doing something. The brain says there's a transformation
Mm,
to things that are actually generated in the heart, feelings.
mm,
Like uh, in as an artist and as a even I dare say as an entrepreneur, when you're doing sales, you have to touch the heart. You have to actually create emotion in people. And
mm,
it doesn't matter that much if you have all these reports and data points about all the tests that you've done and how the bugs that you fixed and all of those brain
mm,
area
mm,
information. You have to shift into understanding how do you actually make people happy? How do you make them feel desire? How do you
mm,
make them feel proud?
mm,
And those feelings actually requires a mindset shift. And the biggest mindset shift in switching to feelings to actually focus on making people feel things is that
mm.
in order to make them feel things, you have to listen to them
Very
first.
true. Very true. Great response. How did your experience as a performer shape the way you now communicate and connect with entrepreneurs as a coach?
Well, it's actually the role of a coach can have a lot of different personalities.
Mm,
But one thing that I think is common with any coach is the ability to speak up your view, to
mm,
actually tell people what you think, and to even be bold in calling on their bullshit and their
mm,
stories.
mm,
So being a performer, being able to act, being able to to actually put on an act, put on a show, have taught me to be bold enough to tell people what I think about what I just said. And if someone tells me a story that I think is not necessarily true, it might be true in their head, but it doesn't have to be true. We can actually tell the same story in a different way based on the same facts, right? They're not lying, they're telling the truth. But we can rewrite the story. We can find a way to reframe the story. And in order to be able to tell them that, you need to be bold and direct. And that's something that I've learned from being a performer.
Very interesting. And what do you mean by super coaching? And how does it go beyond traditional client work?
So the term super coaching, which is actually a term that I coined and is like trademarked in the US, is all about coaching plus benefits. So super coaching is coaching plus benefits.
Sure.
Kind of like literally, we think about friendships and friendship plus benefits. Coaching has other benefits, but it does have additional benefits that are not expected or that are providing a deeper meaning to the relationship. So it actually all it's actually about understanding coaching and the fact that coaching has a spectrum. So on the strict purist level of the coaching provides accountability by asking great questions. You listen to the client, they tell you what do you want, and you ask them, so what's your plan on achieving that goal? What's going to be the first action? Why did you choose that as the first action? And so on. So you just keep on asking questions so that the client keeps on building up a plan towards their goals. And then a week later, okay, so you said you'll do this. What did you do? What was hard about it? You just keep on asking smart questions. There's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. It works. It actually has value. But then there's the spectrum starts to widen up when you know, as the coach, you know the answer to the questions that the client has. So when the client has a question, instead of getting another question from them, you actually can answer the question. So the next level, somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, there's the coach that is willing to be a mentor. They're willing to actually share their experience and say, that's a great question. Instead of answering this question with a question, I'm just going to answer. The answer is 5 minutes. The answer is Mondays. The answer is you need to hire another person, period. Pay them $25, right? Like there's all these answers that you might actually have, and you can save time for the client instead of going in loops. Oh, how much did you want to pay them? You just tell them it's 25. So the next level in the spectrum of being willing, because all we do as coaches we partner on a transformation. We partner with a client on a transformation. So you either want to do a little bit of the transformation by just asking questions, or you want to save them time by answering their questions, or you're willing to go just a little bit further. And that's where I stand in the spectrum. I'm willing to do some of the work myself to help my client reach the transformation. I'm willing to go into the trenches with them, look around, assess the situation, and tell them what's missing and what can be done to get us through transformation faster and more efficiently. And it starts by adding some extra service to the talks, to the conversation, to the coaching.
Very interesting.
It can be any type of service that you're willing to do. These days I include, a graphic designer that helps my coaching clients, and a website developer that helps my coaching clients, and like a lead scraper, and a video editor, and a copywriter. All of these, I didn't start with so many of them. Now it's like a complete marketing stack. I started with like just one thing, and clients really value any help that you can give them.
Very interesting. You also talk about serving small audiences with big impact. What does this mean in practice?
Well, it's sometimes counterintuitive to go small, because as business owners, we think, oh, I'll serve a bigger audience.
Yeah.
I'll make more money. But actually harder these days, because there's so much noise, there's so much competition. As you know, it's hard to build up. It takes years sometimes to build up the audience. When you're starting out, when you're considering your services, you're considering what to do next, or even just as a coach, when you're looking for just a few more coaching clients to fill out your roster, it helps to micro niche and to go smaller in the size of the audience that you're serving. And that helps you get noticed faster. It helps you understand their needs and build up solutions for them for free at the beginning. And over time, they're going to know, like, and trust you, and they're going to work with you and ask you to help them. And I, just as an example, with balloon art as a micro niche, there are about 3,000 professional balloon artists in the world. Professional as in they make a reasonable amount of money that they can afford a reasonable amount of services to sustain their business. So those 3,000 people, we've made over, like me and my team, we've served these people, this micro niche of 3,000 people, and we've made over $1 million.
Wow.
Just from these people. They're not rich, they don't have a lot of money, but they have businesses, and those businesses need help. And we provided help in the value of over $1 million. So that's a big impact in small niches.
So I love this concept of micro niching. How can a coach identify what is the best niche their client has?
Well, I like to look at this as a test where you ask yourself 3 questions. And you actually need to be able to know in advance. Some micro niches are bad for you, even though they make sense because you have an experience. Like maybe you really like some dinosaurs. You love dinosaurs, you love dinosaurs toys, and you want that to be your micro niche. But if you can't pass the 3 tests, then it's not going to be a good business for you, even though you might have that tendency or that passion. So while I love it if it's connected to something you're passionate about, of course, I prefer that you have experience and value to bring to the table, and it's interesting for you. All of that is obvious, but how do you actually choose something that will make into a business? That's a different skill, and that's where the 3 tests come into play. So the first test is findability. How easy is it to find people to collaborate with? And that's actually something that is very important to be easy. You need to be able to find 50 people a year, once a week, that you will collaborate with someone, exchange ideas with them, maybe interview them on a podcast, maybe interview them on a blog, on a YouTube channel, maybe write an ebook together, maybe do a Facebook Live together, maybe do a Q&A for LinkedIn, whatever it is that you want to do. You need to find 50 of them a year, ideally, and it has to be easy to find. The second test is braggability. How likely is it that people that you collaborated with will actually share the story and talk about it with their audience? And that really is helpful because you now have someone in a bubble of a tribe talking about you. That's a very powerful thing. But there's a third test as well, and that is sellability. How likely is it that that person you collaborated with will either buy something directly from you or their audience might buy something from you? And when I say buy, I don't mean necessarily only with money. It could be with time, with an exchange of value where you give them knowledge and they give you their email address, right? There could be a lot of selling going on, even without anyone paying something. So as long as you know and you can actually visualize and plan that you are going to find people easily, they're going to brag about the relationship, and they're going to be able to do something, to produce value by selling something through that collaboration, then that's a good micro niche.
Very interesting. You also emphasize building structure that supports freedom. What does this look like in business terms?
Well, it actually starts by understanding your business main functions that you need to have and to figure them out. For example, every business needs leads. Every business needs sales. Every business needs the operations of like actually providing the service. Most of the businesses need some sort of customer support and some sort of retention function where you keep on the relationships. And that is, it doesn't matter what is your type of business, you're going to need to think about all these things. And once you actually have a solution and a system and a process for each of these functions. And once those functions actually work, like, I'm generating 60 leads a month for this activity. I'm selling this much amount of sales, my conversion rates, and so on. My people are coming back for another service. In this percentage. Once you know your systems, you actually have the freedom to decide what do you want to do next. Do you want to get to a certain number? Do you want to grow? Do you want to maybe it's enough? Maybe like what you're doing is actually enough for you, and that's a very strong place to be in.
Right.
So that's where the freedom comes from. It comes from understanding what problems are actually they need to be solved. And many people think that it's sales. We just need to make more money. That will solve my problems. But that's like not always the truth. Sometimes the problem is not sales. Sometimes the problem is a marketing problem. The problem is leads. Sometimes the problem is repeat clients, and by identifying the right problem to work on, it actually makes it easier to solve that problem.
Very interesting. How do you help business owners design systems that reflect their personality and values?
This is a really good question, because if you're not helping them do something that they want based on their values, they're not going to accept it.
Right.
So especially for someone like me that is on the super coaching side of the range, it's very important to be able to provide service that they actually want. And I've seen my share of mistakes. Like, I've done mistakes myself, where I would try to push a solution and the client will say, no, I don't want to do that. So that's not based on what I want and my values. So over time, I coined the term listening harder. Listening harder is an effort. You sweat from listening. And that's the level of like hardship that you need to put in. You really do need to listen and find out what they mean, find out what they want, find out try to read the room. Always try to read the room and be empathetic. That's a very strong skill for any coach, but especially if you want to listen harder, you have to be empathetic. And take into account that you might have the wrong idea. They actually might be have a better idea for themselves, a more intuitive idea. As long as you're willing to listen harder, then you'll be fine, and they will appreciate the solutions.
Very interesting. How can data-driven thinking coexist with intuition in decision making?
So intuition is actually, I feel, my intuition about intuition is that intuition is more important. Like, you really cannot act against your intuition. Some clients will find it physically impossible to act against their intuition. With that said, data, once you honor an intuition and give it the space that it deserves, then data is starting to be seeable. You actually can start to see it. So it's all about giving a lot of room for those feelings, for those intuitions, for the instinct of the business owner before you throw data at them. And once they're feeling safe and heard, they are willing to look into even adjusting their plan against their intuition based on their data. But they can't do it if you just go for the kill immediately. You need to give them a lot of space, and some changes takes years to go against an intuition. I have a client that I've been working with for 5 years. They've actually grew their business from 250K all the way to 1 million K, and we're continuing to go strong beyond that. And some of the changes that I've suggested to them were against their intuition, like hiring some more help, hiring a VA to help them. They were very afraid of that, to help them with sales and so on. But over time they start to see more and more of those data points, and eventually hire them. And it was clear that like this was a big change in growing the business. So it's all about having the patience to have the client see the data points in the right pace.
Well said. Ziv, I have time for 2 more questions. In today's AI-driven world, how are copywriting and communication changing for coaches?
So it's actually changing in 2 directions. Like it's making life easier, but it's actually putting up on a mask for many, many people. So I see a lot of coaches that are becoming AI coaches, and they become an average of like all of the known information out there on coaching, instead of being unique and instead of being noticeable, because they keep on using ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, and they keep on like just, okay, let's brainstorm some content ideas. Let's review the content. Let's okay, now write this post, now write that post. Sometimes they even forget to remove their M dashes. And you could see that it's written by AI. No one needs help from a coach with a mask on their face, hiding their real face. No one needs that. You just wouldn't trust. Imagine going to a therapist, sitting down in front of them in a real, actual room, not through Zoom, and they wear this faceless mask on their face. You will not be able to listen to them, to understand them, to trust them.
Correct.
AI is amazing. It saves a lot of time. It is beautiful the way it works. It's fascinating. I love it. I use it all day long. But I try to keep on asking questions about me. What do I want to say? What do I want it to do? What would it make? How can I demand more than the AI so that I could actually shine a light on an idea? And I need to know what is that idea by myself, and it needs to come from within, and then AI can save you time and help you.
Very interesting. And my last question to you, Ziv, if you had to summarize your philosophy of sustainable success, what would it be?
So I think it's the most meaningful part of my success is about care about your clients' results, that what they want to achieve, so much that you will be willing to go into the trenches with them. That ability, that super coaching idea of let me help you with whatever you need, but also let me do one more thing for you. Let me save you some more time. Let me save you some more money. Let me help you actually get it done faster. That mindset has been at the core of all of my growth as a coach. We're at a point where we're doing more than $500,000 a year. Where I can live a comfortable life with a lot of freedom because of that. Our clients stay with us for so long that we only need to find maybe 3 clients a year to replace churn. And that lifestyle was only possible because I kept on looking for what else can I do for you? And the idea of over delivering and finding more problems to solve in this world.
Yeah.
That's what makes entrepreneurship beautiful, I think. That's what makes it so efficient. The fact that we actually, business people, business owners, we actually solve problems in this world, and we make this world, in that sense, a prettier place to live in, one business at a time.
Very interesting. And on that note, and your very powerful set of words right at the end, care about your clients so much that you're willing to go into the trenches with them. Thank you, Ziv, for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. We covered some very interesting ground on super coaching, on sustainable coaching, on micro niching, and how you are giving so much value to your coachees. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.